Welcome to the Modern Sage podcast, where you can gain wisdom to live your best life with spiritual tools, emotional healing, mental health, and more. And today I'm very excited because we're talking about one of my personal favorite topics, which is energy healing and chakras. And I have the perfect guest to talk to today to help us learn even more, or whether you're a beginner or a full time energy healer yourself, I'm sure that you will gain such wisdom from Dr. Susan Shumsky. She's a spiritual teacher and has authored 20 books in English, and her works are published around the world. She has studied with Maharishi, and she has a book called Maharishi and Me, and worked for him for 6 years. And if you're not familiar with this particular guru, he was the guru to the Beatles and to Deepak Chopra. She was with him for, I think, 2 decades. We'll let her tell us, and has traveled the world in search of healing and enlightenment and peace and helping other people realize and access their full potential. So today we're going to have a wonderful conversation about chakras, what they are, how we can best serve our life and our health by optimizing our energetic healing and energetic system. And I'm super excited to introduce you to Dr. Shumsky. Hi.
Hi, Leah. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
I'm excited to have you. Susan and I realized at a mutual meeting that we had the same publisher on one of my books and several of your books. So we had something in common right away, aside from the chakra healing work. I know you do a lot more, and you're very versatile in your spiritual work and with yoga and so many things. But I am just really eager to dive into energy medicine with you and just help people understand the importance of chakras and energy medicine. So before we go into the nuts and bolts of it, why don't you tell me a little bit about how you started your practice in healing and understanding energy medicine in particular?
You know, I was a hippie in the 60s, a flower child, and we were seeking spiritual awakening at that time. It wasn't just all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, contrary to popular belief. We were looking for what at that time we called altered states of consciousness. And our gurus were people like Timothy Leary and
Mm-hmm.
Richard Alpert, who later became Ram Dass. And they wrote a book called The Psychedelic Experience. So we were experimenting with LSD and other psychedelic drugs, and we were hoping we would reach nirvana that way. That didn't work out too well for me. As a matter of fact, I had a psychotic breakdown as a result of taking LSD.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, that definitely motivated me to find out more about healing, spiritual healing, and also meditation. I was already sold on the idea of reaching nirvana, and the best way to do that would be through meditation.
Is that what led you to spend time in India and different places in the world with different teachers? Is your interest in a way without the drugs to find spiritual healing?
Absolutely, Leah. And I was looking, I was reading voraciously, reading the Buddha scriptures, reading Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, reading books by Alan Watts. And Alan Watts said you have to find a meditation guide. And in 1966 in Berkeley, California, you didn't exactly go to the yellow pages and look for meditation guide or
Right.
anything remotely similar to that. So I asked a friend, how do I find this meditation guide? He said, well, have you ever tried to meditate on your own? And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I didn't. So I lay on my bed. That's how clueless I was, Leah. I didn't even know you're supposed to sit up when you meditate. I
Hmm.
lay on my bed and sort of asked for or prayed for a meditation. And immediately I was propelled into this ecstatic state. I could feel this rush or cord of energy rushing from the tips of my toes all the way to the top of my head. And I felt like I was plugged into this cosmic electric socket, but in a most ecstatic way. And I figured, well, I guess this is meditation. But little did I know that not only had I had my first meditation, but also Kundalini awakening all at the same time without any drugs or any stimulants. And that motivated me to, when a friend told me that he wanted to take me to the Transcendental Meditation Center, I said, oh, yes, definitely. That's what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw the picture of the guru on the wall at the TM Center, I knew that this was where I was going to learn real meditation.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm glad that you did and that you're sharing your knowledge with so many people in so many different ways. Meditation is wonderful. I actually just did an Instagram reel about a 10-second meditation, trying to just encourage people to tap into any kind of meditative state that they can attain. You know, so many people are intimidated about meditation and how to do it and why they can't do it. And there's a lot of different ways to learn and train, but there's also just a very core sense of presence and um, peace and breath that we can utilize in an instant, right?
Absolutely. It doesn't really take very long to go into a meditative state.
Right.
Really, all you have to do is take 3 deep breaths like this, like, and just kind of letting go as you breathe out, and just do that 3 times. And I think you'll find that you're immediately more relaxed, more peaceful, more centered, more balanced, more calm.
Yes, that's wonderful. Well, so getting to the chakras, as you know, I am an energy healer as well and have been for about 25 years. My first book, The Fearless Path, which I'll have to show everyone because I don't have them lined up. That's a great lineup you have. And look at all these chakra books, details about energy healing and the 7 chakras and how we become imbalanced and how we can become more balanced. But your work is it's similar, but you have so many different offerings. I'm looking behind you: the color your chakras, the instant healing, the energy meditation, chakras and chakra healing, the big book of chakras and chakra healing. So when you think about, or when you first talk to someone, let's say someone that has never heard of energy medicine, someone that doesn't know what a chakra is, what would you say to them?
I would say that we aren't just this physical form. There's more to us than this physical body. We actually have a subtle body as well. And that subtle body has 5 layers. And well, actually, the physical and the subtle body have 5 layers. So there is our physical form, which is called the Annamaya Kosha in Sanskrit. It's called Annamaya Kosha, which means food sheath, because it's made of food, sustained by food, and becomes food for something else after we're gone. So that's why it's called the food sheath. Then there's another layer of our energy field, which pervades and permeates the physical form, but extends a little bit outward from it as well. And that's called the pranamaya kosha, or the vital energy sheath. So that is where vital energy flows. And vital energy in India, it's called prana.
Right.
In China, it's called chi. And in Japan, it's called ki. So the prana is flowing through this subtle body, or this subtle sheath, and it's flowing through specific pathways called nadi. And in China, they call them meridian. So we have this life force energy flowing through this subtle body, and it's what's keeping us alive.
Yeah. So when a lot of people ask me, I'm glad you said meridians and the names for the energy, because so many people now are becoming, I want to say Americanized or Westernized to acupuncture and acupressure and and yoga and so forth. And they're utilizing, or, they're allowing other people to manipulate and help balance and heal their meridians. And the chakra energy, although the chakra placements the main chakras are in different places in some parts and function a little bit differently, but we have so many chakras all over our body and our energy centers are affected similarly. We may not need to put a needle in every one to help restore that balance, but there's so many things that we can do to open these channels and create optimized flow of energy and this vital life force that's trying to move through us, right?
Exactly. And these pathways of energy, they come together and they form plexuses. And those plexuses are called chakra. And chakra is wheel. It means wheel in Sanskrit. And a wheel has a hub and it also has spokes. So the hub of energy is this vital energy center called a chakra. And then the spokes are radiations of pranic energy. So we have 7 major chakra We have the base chakra and the pelvic chakra and the navel and the heart and the throat and the third eye in the middle of your head, and then the crown chakra above your
Mm-hmm.
head. But we have 7 other chakras that I talk about in my book, The Big Book of Chakras and Chakra Healing.
Yeah, that's great. That's, the 7 main chakras are obviously what many people, especially in the westernized world, are focusing on. And one of the misconceptions that I am passionate about helping educate people on is, especially in this world of quick fixes, and let me just go to somebody to help me and to heal me and do the work for me, and I do chakra balancing and chakra healing and energy, but I incorporate it within a system of healing overall, because I know that, going for chakra balancing and help and assistance and opening our channels and so forth is helpful. It's not the healing agent. There's so many things that affect the reason our chakras could become closed or imbalanced or blocked, right? So I want us to talk a little bit about, this misconception of going to the chakra doctor or the energy healer and just getting fixed by someone doing an hour session, right? What do you think about that?
Well, Leah, I think it's really very common and very human for people to want someone else to fix them.
Yeah, it's true.
And we all fall into that trap. But ultimately, we're responsible for our own lives, and we're creating our own destiny moment by moment through every thought, every word, and every deed. So, Lord Buddha said in the very first verse of the first chapter of the Dhammapada, he said, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. That's
Mm,
actually a stunning statement
it
when
is.
you think
Wow.
about it.
Oh,
All that
everybody wants
we
to go
are,
wash their brain tonight.
yeah, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. And then he goes on to say, if a person speaks or acts with a pure thought, then happiness follows him or her. If a person speaks or acts with an impure thought, then unhappiness follows him or her. So, what he's saying through this verse, which is very important, it is the first verse of the most important scripture in Buddhism. And what he's telling us is that we're creating our destiny moment by moment, day by day, through every thought, every word, and every deed. And in
Mm,
fact, Jesus said the same thing. He
hmm.
said, we're not defiled by what we put into our mouth, we're defiled by what comes out of our mouth.
Right. Yes. And to go even further into the emotional aspect of that, we know our emotions that we experience from interchanges with people, from exchanges, from relationships, from experiences. When our emotions become heightened and we have these difficult or negative thoughts or beliefs or deeds or what have you, then it gets trapped in our emotional body as well, which then starts to affect that layer around us of our vital energy. So many people feel like they're blocked or they're stuck or something's wrong with them. And they're going off of old belief patterns that other people have told them, you're not worthy, you're not okay, you're not smart enough, you're not, they've been fed these toxic beliefs that they aren't good, and it's a real problem in our society, especially, with capitalism and just what money means and power and trying to achieve all these things. It's kind of a real dangerous setup. So we have to be careful about not only um, our own experience and how we're managing ourselves, but when we're raising children, how we're talking to friends, how we're dealing with coworkers and relationships and so forth. One of the reasons that I became, or the main reason I was attracted to energy healing was from my own trauma. I was sexually abused and I had had other, circumstances. And I found that allowing someone to enter into my field without physically touching me for about 2 or 3 years was the most healing thing for my mind and my emotions. And it was so powerful for me. That's what led me to become, or do this line of work. And so with your experience and your life journey, how have you benefited personally from energy medicine or energy healing?
Well, I've benefited mostly from speaking the word of truth.
Mm,
In other words, using words, using affirmations to heal.
hmm.
That combined with meditation has been the most healing for me. But I'm very curious to find out more about what you were saying about letting someone into your field without touching you. How did that occur? How did you go about doing that?
Well, I actually went to a school. I went to a school in San Diego. It was called the School of Enlightenment and Healing. And it's no longer there. I think it moved to North Carolina, but may have dissolved since then. This was, gosh, 30 years ago or something. And we were all learning about meditation, about channeling, about mind body, about energy, about, all this kind of work. I want to call it like esoteric work, but I don't find it esoteric at all. I find it very practical. And I was going there kind of intentionally to learn, but also to seek a different path of healing because I'd gone through therapy and I'd, taken antidepressants and I'd done so many different things to try to help heal from that incident and from different things in my childhood. And when I was at the school, we had a lot of practicum, a lot of, practice sessions with each other after our training and a lot of studying and a lot of meditation. And it was there that I was able to sense my own energy field and kind of let myself free from the physical pain and the mental thoughts and sense my own field. And when others were in my space, you know, either manipulating or moving energy or just supporting me in my unraveling, it was so profound. And I was able to, kind of come back into my body with a greater sense of awareness and compassion and forgiveness and let my anger move through me, stop the repetitive thoughts, have a place for them to go and attach themselves to. And it was just a process for me that was completely transformative. So, in my work now with people, I work with some people who've had trauma. Certainly I think a lot of us have had, certain types of trauma. I find it similar, a similar reaction is that a lot of people have been either abused, verbally abused, or physically abused, or emotionally abused, and they're very timid, even in therapy, even in a talk therapy session, to come forward and be vulnerable and allow access. But in the state of energy healing and energy medicine, even self-applied, they're able to open up a little bit more and allow access to those parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's
Mm,
fantastic.
mm,
Yeah. So I think that everyone does have trauma, either from this life or from past lives.
yeah.
And the first thing is to recognize that and admit that you've had these experiences, and also to forgive yourself because it's not your fault,
Right.
to not blame yourself for things that have happened. And sometimes the things that have come strangely as blessings for us to look at and see, well, how did this change me?
Right.
How what was the gift that came as a result of this horrible experience? Was it a gift of greater self-awareness? Was it a gift of greater confidence that came out of it? Was it a gift of knowing that something needed to be healed that I didn't recognize before? So we need to look at these things and then obviously forgive ourselves. A method that I love is Ho'oponopono, for example,
I love that
where you're
too.
simply saying, I forgive you, I'm sorry, I love you, thank you. Just repeating those four expressions,
Yes.
uh, it really has a very profound healing effect.
It really does. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I love that. I love that prayer also. And the intention when you said how you've benefited and you mentioned, speaking words of truth and inspiration and confidence and so forth, again, going back to that idea of I'm going to go to this person, they're going to fix me. When we can step into the authority role of our life, and when we can become our own self encourager, and when we can learn to soothe ourselves and to claim our worth and our greatness and speak positively to ourselves, that action alone shifts so much within the body and within the energy system, right? And I think, a lot of people just kind of go the shortcut of not that affirmations are bad. I love affirmations, but you know, we kind of get in this just quick fix thing of I'm going to say these 5 affirmations and I'm going to feel better. But when we embody the truth of something like that beautiful, simple prayer, I forgive you. I love you. I'm sorry. You know, it's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I love that. And then one of my very favorite go-to prayer is the one that I use many times a day and that I encourage others to use. And it goes like this: I am in control. I am one with God. I am the only authority in my life. I am divinely protected by the light of my being. I close off my aura and body of light to the lower astral levels of mind, and I open to the spiritual world. Thank you, God, and so it is.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And whenever you say an affirmation or a prayer, it's really important that you have confidence in your words,
Hmm.
that you state it verbally, audibly, not just in your head, not just thinking about it, but saying it audibly, and also have the conviction that, yes, this is true.
It's true. Right.
And another thing is that when you're using the words I am, it's really a good idea to pretend as though your higher self is saying those words through you, not
Mm.
your ego self.
Hmm.
You're saying I am, you're actually invoking the mighty I am presence, which is your higher self. It is the divine presence within you. So,
Mm.
whatever you say after you say those words, I am, it better be something you want to own
Right.
because it has manifestation power. So, anytime you say, oh, I'm so unhappy, I'm so sick, I'm so poor, I'm so overweight, whatever it is you're saying, it does have manifestation power. So, when you say, I am loved, I am joyous, I am fulfilled, I am happy, I am my perfect size and weight, I am getting better every day.
Hmm.
These words manifest.
Yeah.
There's manifestation power in the words I am. So just remember what Jesus said about what comes out of your mouth.
It's so true. Yeah. I often talk about being the chooser rather than waiting to be chosen. You know, that same idea of stepping into whether you want to think of it as action, affirmation, claiming, owning, you know, being that essence, be the chooser. You so many people are in this defensive kind of cowering position of either, um, you know, claiming their fears or their insecurities or waiting for other people to validate them. And it's the cycle that will run a person into the ground. So I think it's really important. I agree. Say these things with conviction and belief that they are true is very important. About the chakras and the energy of the chakras, the energy of our bodies and our life experience. A lot of people, especially in the yoga world and the commercialized world, you know, talk about different things that we can do to balance our chakras, meaning color therapy or using crystals or certain meditations or certain sounds. What do you think? What do you suggest for people? Do any of
So
those things work, or what would you say?
yes, yes, they all work. They're
Yeah.
all great. And because of the fact that I'm primarily into meditation and affirmation and visualization, I really think that those are powerful methods of, for example, just imagining parts of your body, imagining, for example, let's say the navel chakra, and just imagining that there's a light there and that the light is getting brighter and brighter and more brilliant. And if you go through the various energy centers doing a meditation like that, where you're imagining that there's light and that it's getting brighter and getting clearer,
Hmm.
that kind of visualization can be very helpful and very cleansing and very healing.
Yeah, that's great. I also love essential oils. Do you like
Yeah.
essential oils?
I don't use them, but lot of people just really depend on those. They really love them. And I know that they're very powerful.
Yes, they are powerful. I love using them direct. Actually, I have a line of chakra oils that I created, and I love not just using my oils, but other oils applied to the body with that intention, of resonating and aligning with our higher self and this essence of the earth or the flower or the sun or this alive energy. And I think it's a beautiful, not just visualization, but in this case, something we can apply directly to our body. But the visualizations are so helpful. I find, especially when I'm working on a client and, there's some energy stagnation or blockage or something, kind of going on, with just intention alone and me bringing that to their attention and placing intention there, using light or sound is even more powerful, can help that energy center calm and relax into a state of its natural vibrancy. And I say that because, again, I think some people have this really hardcore belief that something's wrong with me. I can't do this. Something's wrong with my brain. I always feel guilty. Something's wrong with me. I don't deserve this, or whatever the belief is. And they're sending this message to their they're sending this message to their body system that's constricting it. There's no space for blossoming and freedom and opening and light and healing. And so I don't know what your experience is with that. Do you ever lead meditations or healing sessions? Have you ever done that as part of your career, or are you mostly educator and speaker?
Oh, I lead meditations all the time.
Oh, you do? Okay. Where do you lead?
I lead them venues like we're doing right now.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. I do them on radio interviews. I do them on visual interviews, wherever, anytime I can do a meditation, I'm there.
Oh, really? That's great. Well, I figured you probably did incorporate it as part of I didn't know if you led meditations or group healings or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that
I've
in your
taught,
travels.
yeah, I've taught, I've done 700 I've done 700 personal appearances, most of which are workshops.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So out of your books, and I know this is a bad question, but I want to ask anyway. Out of the books that you've written, which do you personally resonate with the most when you
Oh my
felt,
gosh.
oh yeah, this was a good one? And it doesn't have to be your best book, but just one that you really love.
Awaken your divine intuition, simply because the main thing that I teach, my primary mission, is to help people to listen to the still small voice within,
Mm,
learn how to uh, be in touch with spirit, learn how to develop a conversation with God,
hmm
and to be led by spirit in everyday life. That is how I try to live my life. I'm not perfect at it. Certainly, it's not an easy way to live.
Right.
But I do my best to listen to that inner voice and to follow the guidance and to teach others how to listen to that still small voice within and how to distinguish and discern between the true voice of spirit and other voices in your mind, how to test whether the message you're getting is
hmm
the real thing. So that's my main thing, and I call that divine revelation. Uh, it's a registered trademark, which means it's a method that I teach for listening to the inner voice.
I see. Yeah, that's beautiful. You also have a book on the third eye meditation. So a lot of
Mhm.
people are interested in opening their third eye for the purposes of intuition or psychic abilities and also to calm their mind. Do you have any quick tips that you might share with someone about how to do that?
Yeah, that this particular book, Third Eye Meditations, is filled with meditations, affirmations, and prayers and mantras to help you to develop that skill of listening to the inner voice. Now, here's the tip.
Okay.
It's really easy,
Yeah.
really easy to do this. And okay, so all you need to do is you just sit down in a chair and close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, like the deep breaths that I was showing earlier.
I'm going to do it with you while you're
Well,
leading it.
okay.
Yeah.
You take a few deep breaths until you get quiet and still and centered and balanced within yourself. And then you're in a very deep meditative state. And by the way, as you're going into that meditative state, it's a good idea to call upon a divine being that you feel comfortable calling upon, a deity or a ascended master or angel or archangel, whoever you want to call upon, and ask them to take you deeper into the meditation. And then once you're in a deep state of meditation, then you do something that people normally don't do when they're in deep meditation. And that is to ask a question, ask for guidance, ask for inspiration, ask for healing. Ask a specific question that you want an answer to. For example, what do I do about the fact that my son is taking drugs? Can you help me? Please give me some advice about that. In other words, what you're asking for is you're asking for wisdom, you're asking for advice.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take another big, deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Big, deep breath. And then you do what I call the do nothing program. That means do nothing, nothing, and less than nothing. And then the answer will just come to you. It will come to you either as words or as a vision or as a feeling. And that's how we begin a conversation with our higher self or with the divine being that we want to communicate with.
Yes. You brought up a hugely important point about listening. And, you know, in this busy world that we live in and everyone's going a million directions and social media everywhere, if we just stop and listen, first ask and then listen, I always talk about it as being in relationship with, being in a spiritual relationship. It's not just how spiritual are we or what we're doing, just how do we communicate with our divine being?
That's right.
And
exactly.
we have to nurture that relationship just like we nurture any other relationship. But so many people just want, and I did this the other night, actually, I was praying and doing my nightly routine and saying my prayers. And then I just threw in, will you show me a sign tomorrow? Show me a sign about this. And actually I did get one.
Absolutely.
But yeah. So a lot of people just want to receive without being clear, without asking or being in communication with. And that's a really great point that you brought up. And go ahead.
Everything that I teach is based upon one principle: ask and it shall be given unto you. It's all about asking and receiving. And I love, Leah, that you brought up this thing about having a conversation, having a relationship with spirit, because that's what this is all about, as far as being led by spirit, as far as receiving guidance, as far as receiving healing, receiving creative ideas, receiving inspiration. I call myself a God plagiarist, actually. All these books came from my conversations with God, my experience of divine communication.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Where else would it come from? People,
Exactly.
it's information that's available to everyone and we have to download it.
Exactly.
We're so used to going to Google to get the answers, but we can go straight to the source.
Well, that's right.
So what about
some things you can't find on Google?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't.
Where is God on Google? That maybe is a good question. As far as for people, like a lot of people are suffering with heart chakra issues, grief, loss, feeling unable to connect to compassion and love and grace and all of these beautiful attributes. Do you have any advice or suggestions for people that feel misaligned in their heart chakra or want to open their heart chakra more so they can have better relationships with people?
Yes, one thing that you can do is you can breathe into the heart, just taking some deep breaths. And as the breath is going into the heart, just imagine that the prana or the life force energy is going into the heart area. And then as you exhale, just imagine that heart energy, that life force energy in the heart is expanding out into the universe and blessing everyone around you.
Mm.
So that would be a one thing. Now, another thing, oddly, is cutting binding ties.
Mm.
Now, what do I mean by that? Binding ties means that you have uh, ties, what I call binding ties or karmic bonds, karmic ties, psychic ties with people, with everyone you've ever encountered. Probably you have these ties. And these binding ties are not positive, they're not anything you want to keep. Because what they are is they're the residue left over from negative experiences you've had with these people around you. Actually, you can have karmic ties with people, places, things, organizations, situations, circumstances, memories, addictions. You can have these binding ties with any of those things. And so you don't want to hold on to these ties. You need to let them go. You need to cut them. And when you cut them, and these are real, by the way, it's not just some fantasy I made up in my head. If you are clairvoyant, you'll see these ties. You'll see that there are bonds, that they're strings or nets or jails, or they appear in many different forms. They might look like ropes or dreadlocks. In any case, they're not beneficial. So it's a good idea to cut the ties daily with these things that you are being unduly affected by. And by the way, the ties are often from, for example, the navel chakra is one place the ties really are binding to, and the pelvic chakra and the root chakra. Often the lower chakras are involved with these binding ties. So I recommend that on a daily basis, you use a simple prayer like this, and it goes like this. I now call upon a spirit to cut any and all psychic ties, karmic bonds between myself and Leah. These psychic ties are all now lovingly cut, 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 lifted, loved, healed, released, dissolved, and let go into the light of God's love and truth. Thank you, God, and so it is. And if you do, if you cut these binding ties daily with people that you live with and people that you work with, people that you're thinking about, and also with the other things I mentioned, entities that you are attached to, organizations, situations, addictions, whatever it is, cut them daily with your loved ones, with the people at work. You're going to have, and I promise you, you're going to have better, more intimate relationships with these people, more harmonious relationships.
Yeah. So I want to talk about this just a little bit more because I am passionate about helping people understand that connection is one of the ways that we heal. Okay. So I think a lot of people get this idea that then we cut cords or cut ties, which I don't talk about too much in my work just because I find people get really confused and then start trying to detach from everything, you know? So I want to talk about how this is different than staying healthily connected to our soul tribe, to our lovers and friends and family, because we do need connection, right? So speak to that just a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought this up because there are the binding karmic ties and there are the love ties. The love ties are golden ties. They don't look like strings, cords, nets. They look like golden light going from one person to another, often in the upper chakras, the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the third eye, the crown. Those ties are usually attached to the higher chakras. And they are our connection with spirit, our connection with our loved ones. It's their true love bonds. We want to keep the true love bonds healthy and intact. And by the way, if you tried to cut them, you couldn't cut them anyway. They're always there. And they're in a different dimension than the binding karmic ties. We are multidimensional beings. We're not just living in this physical plane. We're living in these subtle realms. And so the binding ties are in the mental, emotional, and astral realms. And the Love ties are in the spiritual plane. They're in a different plane.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you for clearing that up.
Well, thanks for asking about it, because I was so glad I could talk about
Yeah,
that
no,
too.
I think it's important. Is there anything else you want to share about energy healing or chakra health, or why people should pay attention to their chakras from your books or from just your knowledge?
Well, because of the fact that all that we are is the result of what we have thought, is a good idea to, when you're having depressing, negative thoughts, and boy, are people having that right now.
Yes.
This has been the most horrible year that anybody's ever experienced, and people are feeling so isolated and so sad, and they may have even lost a loved one this year. So, whenever we are feeling these uh, feelings that are negative, obviously, grief is not a negative emotion.
Right.
If you lost a loved one, you
Yes.
don't need to heal that. You just need to cry.
Right.
But if you're having negative thoughts, for example, about yourself, feeling unworthiness or feeling inadequacy and these types of things, it's a good idea to recognize those feelings, forgive yourself for feeling them, and then just say an affirmation such as this: I now call upon Spirit to release from my mind all limiting thoughts, feelings, and emotions that no longer serve me. I release from my mind all thoughts of unworthiness, inadequacy, anger, fear, um, feeling unsafe. All these thoughts are now dissolved, healed, released, lifted, and let go from my mind now, and they are gone. And I now welcome and accept into my heart, mind, and spirit beautiful, loving, creative thoughts of I am worthy, I am joyous, I am happy, I am fulfilled, I am good enough exactly as I am, and I am living a joyous life filled with love and with energy and with prosperity and with great fulfillment. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. There's so much that we can change about our everyday experience by just tuning in to our higher self and building that relationship and connection with the divine and asking for what we need, shifting these fears and worries and negativity that we see out in the world, not getting absorbed by that, but transcending that. So I love that. I love your work, Susan. For those that are interested, share your website with us, please.
Yes, drsusan.org, drsusan.org. And also, you can find out about the travels and the conferences at sea that I do, the on cruise ships and so on, at divinetravels.com. That's divine, DIVINE, and then the travels, TRAVELS. That's plural on the travels, divinetravels.com.
Great. Thank you so much. And for all the listeners, I am so appreciative of your time and staying with us and interest in learning more about how you can heal yourself and be a positive force of energy and light into the world. Of course, my books, Overcoming Toxic Emotions, is out now, and the Spiritual Journal for Women. And if you want more from Susan, visit her website. Between the two of us, we have 23 books, workshops, retreats, travels, so many things. We could go into a full-time business together, just
For
bringing
sure.
you what you need for the next 10 years. But she has some fascinating work, and I hope that you will check that out. And I will see you next week on the podcast. Thanks so much.